And so I thought it was an excellent idea. I guarantee you we won't get done today with this, but I can't imagine us going more than 3 lessons on this. But who knows? Depending on where we go as a class and interest and application and finding scripture to cover this. But stress is a huge one. I'm going to bring Jay Maletti in here as an illustration. Right, Jay? Stress-free life, man. Yeah, tell us. Well, that's why I'm talking about you. It will take you down for the count. It will. Not just your heart. I have got in my nice little hands here 2 reports from WebMD. We also not only have a person who has dealt with stress and it has had a negative effect, we also have a registered nurse over here, RN, in Betty Harrington. She deals with stress patients every day. And so there are a lot of things that we can say, and I'm serious about Mr. J, and he needs to think about his stress level. By the way, there are other factors that are involved besides stress. Last week, I love to take these silly memes that are on Facebook and blow them up because they seem like they're good. They seem like they make sense. They seem like they've got some kind of positiveness to them, but they're not. And the one that I saw a couple of weeks ago was, if there are people in your life that cause you stress, and I'm not saying it verbatim, but basically, you shouldn't have people in your life that cause you stress. You should not have, a relationship with them. And I thought, oh, wow, that sounds great. Everybody in my life is going to be non-stressful. But when you start to put that to reality is this. Obviously, the person who subscribes to this thought has no children. You cannot have children in a relational situation that don't give you stress. Just by nature of your responsibility over children, they give you stress. Amen? And it doesn't get easier as they get older. No, it does get worse. It gets harder because you have stress of taking care of a child, but you got 100% control on a little baby. As far as they go here, their behavior, 100%. You want them here, you put them here. You want them there, you put them there. As they get older, you have this gradual diminished control over them. So your stress level goes up proportionally. So anyhow, there are memes like that really think them through. Some of them don't make any sense at all. And some are anti-biblical in nature, yet they sound good, but they're not good. And whenever I get a chance to expose those for the truth, I do. So there you have it. Have critical thinking when you see stuff that appears to be very short and pithy and wise, and think it through, because it may not be good. All right, well, what causes you stress, okay? Shana. No, you don't cause me stress, but we're talking stress. Very good, very good. What causes you stress? What was your leading cause of stress for this last week? Matter of fact, I thought of this just this morning to ask us as a class. Oh, no, she's the best mother-in-law, I'm telling you, Peter, you could ever have. So she don't cause you stress. Son-in-laws cause her stress, okay? Oh, yeah, baby. So I thought of this statement this morning, and I want to ask you all this. Have you ever come close to losing it? I mean, you're so stressed, you've come really close to losing it. Well, that was a baited question, and Connie's already on it, okay? Because my second question is, lose what? What does that mean when it's like, man, I come close to losing it today? And I got to thinking critically, losing what? Losing my mind? Losing control? I'm going to slap somebody, throw something, throw up, fall down on the ground, go into convulsions? I mean, what does it mean when we say, I was so stressed out, I almost lost it? And I thought, lost what?
I would say control.
Control of what? I think you're right, but control of what?
Like of your emotions.
That's right. So I think control is a huge part of what we're talking about in regards to stress too. So when I've come close to losing it, it means I think I've got it. Control. So Shauna, right here is a huge piece to our stress component, to all of us, and that was like an epiphany with me this morning, because lose what? And I think you've hit it, control. And there are a lot of areas, mental control, physical control, relational control. But the central thing is control of something. And somehow we think, and to some degree we do, have control. But I think sometimes we think we have more control than what we do. So this stress thing is something that affects us all. By the way, I wonder if I wrote it in my notes here. No, I didn't, but okay. All right, but I just thought of it. Okay, who in this world, other than little kids, let's put it this way, what adult has zero stress in their life? Because there are bunches of them. You just go down here to Riverside Cemetery. They're all in there. Those are the only ones that have no stress, adults. Because by nature life, we will have stress. Stress in and of itself is not a bad thing. We need to have some kind of stress because stress is got us engaged in life. The problem is when that stress becomes excessive, okay? It becomes excessive. We need a definition of stress, okay? Stress, and I got this from somewhere. I don't know, I can't remember where I got it. It's a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. He is obviously under a lot of stress. Strain, pressure, nervous tension, worry, anxiety. Some more synonyms would be trouble, difficulty, something that causes a mental strain, okay? So I like to think of stress like when you're fishing, you're out fishing. You throw out your line and you've caught a fish. You have stress on the fishing line, correct? All of you avid fishing people? And if you pull too much stress on it, what's going to happen? You're going to lose it. You're going to have a break, right? And something bad's going to happen. But if there's too much slack on the line, what happens? It gets off. It gets away.
More stressed out.
No, I mean more stressed out. Did you see the size of that thing? No. So there's this certain balance that we need to have in life, especially in regards to our mental strain and pressures and understanding of what we can control, what we can't control, and our give and take. And, some people think the answer to stress is what? It begins with an A, and it doesn't work. Apathy. Apathy. Huh? Okay. Great answer, because that will make your stress exponentially worse. They may think that that's it. Some people may think it's other things. But the answer to stress is not apathy, where I just don't care about anybody or anything. That's not the answer. That's the fish getting off and having a life of total slack, and you'll even have more problems. Okay? So I did download a couple of articles. I'm not going to read them verbatim. I just want to hit some high points to show how important understanding stress and what it can do and what we can do to manage stress, okay? And we're going to look at what the scripture says. But as Jay pointed out, there are some very specific ways of unmanaged, unhealthy stress, okay? I want to make sure. Unmanaged, unhealthy stress can result in physical illnesses. 1, heart disease. 2, asthma. It can not only bring it on, but it can exacerbate it. Obesity. Some people, their answer to stress is eating. And they begin to store higher and higher levels of fat and so on. And then, of course, diabetes, headaches, depression, anxiety, gastrointestinal stuff. Your IBS can kick in. They have one study that links Alzheimer's to continual excessive stress. And you get older quicker, looking older quicker, premature aging, and premature death as well. Okay? So huge. WebMD and many other studies will verify some of the physical connections to stress. What causes your stress? And by the way, all of you have seen the Holmes Ray Scale, right? You've seen that before? We can do a little quickie thing here. Holmes and Ray Scale? Yeah. Like Holmes on Holmes? Like Sherlock Holmes and Ray? R-A-H-E-E? R-A-H-E. Not 2 E's. Yeah, the stress scale. That's been around for like forever. And is kind of a standard test to find out where you're at on the stress scale. And we'll cover that in just a second. Some causes of stress. For instance, at work. You're not happy with your job. You're working too much. You got too much responsibility. Too many hours. Management is not good. They have unclear expectations, or you don't have any decision in what happens, or one that's a big one is if you've got more than one boss. Anybody have more than one boss? See, this is a pet peeve of mine. This is what I loved about the military. The military's chain of command is very clear. Boom. And this person tells this person, you don't jump the chain of command except in exceptional situations. But the military knows how to make things quick, snap, and you listen to your immediate supervisor. Because I like to say that a boss with 2 or 3 heads is a monster, okay? So if you're working and then this boss comes over here and tells you what to do, this one comes over here and gives you another thing to do, and this one comes over here and tells you another thing to do, and they're all contradictory to one another and competing with one another, what do? You stress out, you know? So anyhow, that does it. If you're working in dangerous conditions, you know, like maybe put roofs on a house, or anyhow, you have to give speeches. Matter of fact, there's been a statistic that percentage-wise, more people fear speaking in public than they do dying. Interesting statistic. Some other life stresses, we'll look at that through the Holmes scale. But fear, uncertainty, unrealistic expectations, and on and on and on. Another great report, WebMD. You can find that. Now let's go to the Holmes thing. You can do your own little test here if you want to write down these numbers. So what Holmes has done is that they found a score of 150 gives you a 50-50 chance of some kind of illness. A score of 300 and over gives you a 90% chance of developing an illness or having an accident or blowing up, right? Okay. And so also you might want to notice that there are times, and this is a pet peeve of mine too. There are positive times in your life that can be stressful. Like having a child. Christmas time. Why is Christmas time got to be stressful? Because of what we do. Huh? Yes, it's a great time. See, he's stressed out already. We only got 16 more Fridays till Christmas. Yes. I got you all stressed out now, huh? Yeah. You can't go to heaven unless you get the pastor a Christmas present, or something like that. All right, now seriously, here's what Holmes and Ray, their stress scale comes up with, and what you do is this is multiplied over the course of 1 year. So, in other words, if you have this happen more than one time a year, then you multiply the score by how many times it's happened. For instance, there's one on here, getting fired from a job is X amount of points. Let's say you got fired twice. So you take that, let's say it's 30 points times 2, so that'd be 60 for that year. Does that make sense? Okay. So, number one stressor, according to Holmes, death of a spouse gets 100 value. So you do 100. Divorce, 73. Marital separation, 65. Did a little jail time, 63. Death of a close family member, 63. Major personal illness, 53. Just being married, you get 50. Okay? So put that right on there, you get 50. Okay? Retirement, 45. Going to have a baby, 40. If you have a mortgage over $100,000, 30. Major change in responsibilities at work, 29. Troubles with in-laws, 28. If your spouse begins or stops work, 26. If you're starting school or you're ending school, 26. Major change in living conditions, 25. Do you have any trouble with your boss? 23. Do you have any changes in your working hours or your conditions? 20. Major change in your recreation. You can't go out and run like you used to. Get 19. Yes. I was stressed out. First thing I said is I met with my doctors, can I run on Friday? Right, Vera? It wouldn't have mattered. I was going to anyhow. Even if you have a mortgage or a loan that's less than $10,000, 17. Can't sleep at night, 16. You change the way you eat, 15. Christmas, 13. And did you get a speeding ticket or any kind of minor ticket? 11. Well, there you go. Use them, add them up. Hopefully you come up to something, hopefully less than 150. But definitely, hopefully less than 300. Because according to Holmes-Ray scale, stress scale, if you have 300 or above in a given year, you have a 90% chance of getting sick, physically sick. Possibly mentally sick too. All right, so there you go. There's the issue. We all know about it. Maybe not to the degree that now you're stressed out. Man, the score is like, man, I got 453. I'm going to die today, No, it doesn't have to be the case. The big thing is then, how do you handle it, right? There you go. Right. You know what? This thing's been out for like 100 years, Absolutely. Because how about some of the new stresses? Let's in regards to technology, okay? There's just dozens of them. But one is, okay, so you send somebody a text, and you either expressly ask for an answer or imply for an answer. How long does it take for them to respond before you now get stressed out? And you begin to think all these things about this person. From, they don't love me anymore, they're mad at me,
I literally just did that, earlier this week. I was texting my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
For the kids' schedule, and wasn't here back there. I'm like, she upset with me? Mm-hmm. What did I do?
What did I do? Don't they love me
She
anymore?
ended up calling me, and I'm like, you not like me anymore. 'Cause I'm not hearing from you.
Yeah.
We just laughed about it. But
I think everybody does it, right? And so you are spot on. There are so many things in technology, even if they do respond, if they respond in a certain way, and we're thinking, well, that was pretty insensitive. But what they wrote was not what they meant. Vera, tell them about the one I got from my buddy Greg Bolton. I texted him something. He sent something back, and the text was full of expletives. It's like, what? What he does is he uses Siri, and he's got this southern accent, and what he sent was not what he meant. And I wrote him back, with all these big, emojis like, what, and that. And he didn't even know, because he didn't proofread it or anything, what he had sent. So even if you get it back, sometimes you get back not what they meant to send. So there's a ton of things, or you see something on Facebook, or, this, that, and the other, and there's just so many ways in which this can cause more stress on people, right? So technology in some ways helps. How about just the stress of needing to have this near you all the time, your security blanket, I mean, a person would be more likely to walk out the door with their pants off than to have their phone missing, They have more stress of that. And they got to keep checking and keep checking and keep checking. And look at me, mine's sitting right here, It's like, wow, So, I mean, there's so many different ways that stress comes into our life, and many are self-inflicted. And one of the big things is, and it'll cover a lot of what you say with the technology, and that is our expectations. Our expectations. And how many of you have to do this? Okay? Someone has called you, someone's texted you, and it has been some time since you replied, or you couldn't take their call. First thing you do, you call them back and say, hey, Jay, man, I'm sorry, I was on the other line. Hey, Jay, I'm sorry, I was in the can. Hey, Jay, I'm sorry, I was, mowing the lawn. Hey, Jay, I'm sorry, my phone battery died. Hey, Jay, I got to give some kind of excuse. Why can't I just pick up the phone and say, hey, Jay, what's up? But I have a stress level here that because I didn't reply to him quick enough, now he's thinking those things about me, that he just doesn't love me anymore, and he's mad at me, or he's a lowlife, or, whatever. So, yeah, I can't believe you call me a lowlife, Jay. Okay, thank you. And I forgive you. So I came up with this idea. I haven't got anybody to create it yet. But I'm using technology to alleviate some of this, is I want to have somebody help me create an app. And the app goes like this. And you tie it to all your communications, whether it be texting, emails, someone has made a reply on your social media, whatever kind. So it all goes through the app, which I don't have a name for, but something like I don't want to forget app. Okay. So what had happened is, let's say I'm driving down the road and Jamie sends me a text. I can't reply to the text because I'm driving. Or I looked at it real quick and then I was immediately diverted to something else. You know how this stuff happens. And 6 other texts come in between then, now and then. And lo and behold, I forgot to reply to Jamie. I just flat forgot. So what had happened is that my app would ring in and say, ding, Jamie sent you a text 2 hours ago. Don't forget to reply to Jamie. Jay sent you an email 4 hours ago. Don't forget to reply to Jay, and it would be a reminder. And you could set it up for whatever time you want to be reminded of until you either say, ignore Jamie, or, ignore Jay or whatever. But once you fulfilled that communication back, then it's satisfied. Don't you think that'd be a good app? No. You want to forget, huh?
so we're stressed out because of social media,
Yeah.
technology,
Yes.
text messages going off all day long. Now I want an app to alert me that I didn't get to sign up.
Yes.
No,
No. You just soon forget? Okay. All right. All right. Maybe ignorance is bliss, I guess. I don't know. It could. That ain't going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah. You know why texting is going to live throughout until Jesus comes again? You know why? They do, but you know why? People don't want to talk to each other. I don't want to talk to you. I just want to send you a note. I don't want to talk to you. It's times people just don't want to talk to each other.
They said that about Nextel and the whole walkie-talkie thing.
Yeah.
It's gone now.
Oh, yeah.
This thing is a phase.
No. Trust me. Texting will stay forever. I predicted Nextel walkie-talkie thing would die because it didn't take very long when you saw people being obnoxious in a restaurant talking on that walkie-talkie thing. Social pressure was going to push that out. No, people love their texting. That's never going to go away. Trust me.
And it's quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. Because another thing about texting, the reason why it's going to stay is if I'm visiting with somebody I don't even like, you can always text somebody else when you're bored. You know, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
you were texting when we were having coffee.
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. But I know how people are. I know how people are. Because I'm... So I'm out walking with my wife, and she's just doing this the whole time. That tells you something, right? It's like, oh, man, I gotta improve my social skills here. So there are millions of ways in which we can put stress on ourselves, like talking about your spouse while you're doing a Bible class. That's just flat dumb. But anyhow, there are a lot of ways, okay? And I want to just start with some of the major ones and then what we can do about it. Because let me just put it this way. Stress comes down to a couple of things, major areas. Like I said, I want to just cover some major areas. One is that we're discontent with our circumstances. So it can cover a lot of areas from work to family to relationships and so on. But we're just discontent with our circumstances. In which, by the way, ultimately we blame God. Many people just blame God or they don't trust God. Just so happened I was watching Bruce Almighty again last night for the 37th time or more. But just so happened it came on, and I'm doing this thing on stress this week. And his stress was like off the scale. And you talk about control on the Maiden of the Mist. He totally lost it, you know, because he didn't think that his circumstances were just. He should be here, but God's got him squished down here, right? And if God really loved him, he would have him up here where he belonged. See, so ultimately, Bruce Almighty and many folks ultimately give the blame to God. If you go to the book of Genesis and the original sin, who did Adam blame his stress on? Did he? There you go. We got a quote right from Genesis in the back row. You thought he was blaming his wife, but ultimately he was blaming God. It was this woman who you gave me. So ultimately he's saying, God, you're the one who did it, because if otherwise you'd have given me a good woman, you know. He blamed God. Bad. So just this whole notion of discontent, no matter who you're blaming, but you're discontent with your circumstances you're in. My boss, I didn't get this done, or this didn't get done for me, and on. But it comes in this major. And then another just major source is not trusting God. Can I really trust God in this situation? Not only my circumstances are bad, but can I really trust God? Okay? So, one of these areas is, I think quite a few people. I don't have any numbers. Who knows? Who could have numbers like these? But people, many people, I think I can safely say that, want to please other people. They want to please other people. And that goes through technology, through just talking, through interpersonal relationships. People want to please other people. And in doing so, and the more they want to be a people, the higher their stress is going to be. And so, how do you know if you're one of these people-pleasing people? Well, I've got a few indicators that will show you. And within the indicators, we can also find the answer to it. For instance, this is one indicator. And by the way, if you have this, your stress level is going to go up in proportion to the amount that you need to do this. And that is that you are way, way too dependent on the approval of other people. Way, way too dependent. And if that's something that drives your boat, that you've got to have everybody's approval, take my word for it. Your stress level is going to go off the chart when you have to have other people's approval. What's the knee-jerk response to that? Again, people are just like, I don't care. Well, that's not the right answer. So if you've got a person way over here on this side of the spectrum that's just, I don't want to make Randy upset. I want him to like me. I want him to approve what I'm doing to the degree that's very unhealthy. And my stress level's always up because I'm watching even the way, golly, look, he's frowning at me right now. I must have done something to not, get his approval. You know what I'm saying? That way off the chart. Then there's the knee-jerk response over here. I don't care what Randy thinks. Who cares? Neither one of those are good or healthy or right. So there's a certain level of, I do care what Randy thinks. I do care what Shauna thinks, Apathy's not the answer, but total needing their approval all the time is not the answer either. Another one in this people approval thing is you're overly sensitive. Overly sensitive. You guys know what I'm talking about. We all have relationships with people where you have to, when you're talking with them, when you're around them, it's like walking on eggshells because they're going to be offended. They're going to get upset. Well, why'd you say it like that? Like what? Well, why'd you say that like that? And it goes on and on. And so you're easily offended. Maybe, and by the way, usually this is because of some insecurity. Most folks that have huge pride levels are people who really struggle with insecurity. Why is that guy over there talking to my wife? What's he doing? I'm really insecure about this whole situation. You'll tell me later, right, babe? All right.
And he's a good-looking guy.
I know it. Very handsome guy. Huh? Oh, okay. So anyhow, you're overly sensitive, easily offended. When you're with someone who you don't have to worry and weigh every single word, what a great, friendship that is. But if you're one of those people that just are constantly hurt and offended, you may have an unhealthy need to please others. Another one is compromise your values. You'll compromise your values so that you can still be a friend with this person. And by the way, this is one, if you got teenage kids, they need to understand this. Know who you are before you get into a situation. Know who you are before you get in a situation. The time to realize that I'm not drinking or drugging is not the time when you're in a car at the end of a football game and somebody's handing you a fifth of Jack and says, hey, here you go. When you determine who you are and who your values are, you don't find yourself in those situations. And if you did somehow accidentally, you know who you are and you don't have to worry about it. But when you think, well, I got to make everybody else happy, I got to be a part of this group, I want to fit in, then your values may come down so that you can fit. huge stressor. Huge stressor. As Christians, if you struggle in sharing your faith with someone, simply telling other people, how God works in your life, which is amazing because then this thing is like darned if you do, darned if you don't, and it really ties in with the one I just mentioned, because if I share my faith, oh man, that's going to give me a stress. I'm stressed out. I'm talking about Jesus in the workplace or something. Stress goes up. Then if you don't, your stress goes up as well because God's unhappy with me. He doesn't love me, And so this whole idea of sharing our faith, you get extremes in both. Either I am going to do it or I'm not going to do it. Either way, I'm going to make somebody unhappy. And I tell you what, the world that we live in right now is also contributing to that. Let me give you a for instance. I have done substitute teaching. Matter of fact, I got to get back doing that again. I really enjoyed it. But anyhow, I was substitute teaching at elementary school. I think it was a second or third grade class. And it was just before the Christmas break. And substitute teachers leave you the material. And I had this book that I was to read to these second or third graders, and it was about the Christmas story. No, not the Santa Claus story. The Jesus was born in Bethlehem story. I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm in a public school. Am I going to get in trouble for reading this? I thought, no, the teacher is, because she left me this material, and it's like, I'm telling them about Jesus, and I got to read the whole Jesus story. But I got to tell you, because of the current climate that we're in, it started to stress me out a little bit. But I just put trust in God and just said, all right, God, I trust you. This has been set up. I'm doing it. But you know what I'm saying? How many of you worry about at work, that if you share your faith, that something negative is going to happen, right? And then the last but definitely not least is having a very difficult time saying no to people. Can't say no. And by the way, do we have extremes in that too? Yeah, we have some people that are very easy to say no. No. Mm-mm. And then some who just can't say no. So I had an illustration about, somebody asking you to help them move. It's always a fun one, right? And you say, well, I just met you last Wednesday. There's a whole Seinfeld episode on this, by the way, if you haven't seen it, where Seinfeld was asked to help this guy move, and it was not Kramer, the bald-headed guy. George asked him, are you kidding me? How long have you known him? A week. Well, that's kind of an intimate question to be asking somebody who, only know for a week. And Jay says, yeah, but I don't know how to say no. And you stress. Don't know how to say no. Again, apathy is not the answer, okay? Because I know some people who would just say, because what is apathy? Apathy is total selfishness, and where you can't say no is an unhealthy need to please everyone. So real quick, a couple of Bible passages. We'll get some Bible in here to help you with what we've got so far. One is trust God. Matthew 6:33, and we're going to cover this next week. Matthew 6:33. Okay? But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. Okay? Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. All these things will be taken care of. You're not gonna gain anything by worrying. That whole chapter in Matthew 6 is about worry. We'll talk about that. We'll go into Philippians chapter 4 next week about how to deal with anxiety. But here's another one, Proverbs 29:25, in regards to needing to please people so you can have balance. The proverb writer says, fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Okay? So don't worry constantly that you're going to have to get the approval of everyone, because you won't. You won't. But whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Paul, in dealing with some of the critics of him, and in his letter to the church at Galatia, says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." And back around 89 or something like that, I heard a preacher say this, quit worrying about trying to make everyone happy. You can't do it. He said, focus on pleasing God and let everything else sort itself out. That's not apathy. Because, if you are trying to please God, God has a thing called the golden rule. The golden rule is what? As you would have them do unto yourself. Okay? Hey, I'm past quarter after, I just noticed. So I'm done. Hey, God bless you. Don't be stressed this week. Trust in God. Trust in God, okay?